unidentified eyewitness recalls what he saw that night.
A poor cashier, she didn't make it. You see, he burned a bad boy real bad. I think he's still alive.
Hillsborough County law officers are looking for the man who firebombed the Winn-Dixie store on Palm River Road and 78th Street tonight. We have 2 reports, beginning with Pulse 13's Warren Ellie, who is at the scene of the explosion. Warren?
Yes, Suzanne, it happened just before 8 o'clock here at the Winn-Dixie store. It was controlled pandemonium. A man walked into the store, apparently with a gasoline can, spread the gasoline across the front of the Winn-Dixie store, threw a match and ran outside. At this time, we now know there is 1 confirmed dead, another of the 16 injured here tonight.
The worst cases were rushed to Tampa General Hospital. 6 victims, mainly bag boys and checkout clerks. At least 1 so badly burned she was not expected to survive. Phyllis Pujol's 16-year-old son had been out of town all week taking tests for college.
They just called me home. They told me my son was burned.
Minutes later, Pujol's worst fears were realized. His son, unconscious and in shock, arrived at Tampa General. His back was covered with 3rd-degree burns.
When sheriff's deputies arrested John William Ferry in East Hillsborough County, they say he offered little resistance except to spit on arresting officers.
The only concern the state attorney's office has is that Mr. Ferry not be allowed to manipulate the system to avoid a trial.
Can you find a man not guilty by reason of insanity even after he admits committing the act?
Yes, I could say that, but within my heart, I know he's guilty.
The temperatures at the center of a gasoline fireball reach 2,000 degrees hot. Fortunately for 20-year-old Lee Carter, a Winn-Dixie cashier, the life expectancy of a person in the midst of that Holocaust was but an agonizing moment.
The act itself is insane because it's the act of a madman.
I was down on my knees, and the first thing I saw was a baby walk out of the fire that was still on fire. Clothes had been burned off. You couldn't really tell if it was a boy or a girl.
And I saw a man kneeling down, getting ready to blow the place.
Well, at the time, we didn't know it was a victim. It was just seemed to be a clump laying between the registers.
Firebomb the Winn-Dixie?
Like I said, I cracked up. I couldn't take it no more.
There's no rational way you can explain the crime because it's an irrational crime. The guy's crazy.
One thing he is not. He is not a fool. Don't let him fool you.
We, the jury, find as follows. The defendant is guilty of murder in the 1st degree.
I think Billy right now thinks he's being beamed up to the planet Uranus.
I know I look like a pretty cruel guy, but this is war, and war is hell.
A majority of the jury, by a vote to 7 to 5, advise and recommend to the court as to each count that it impose a sentence of life imprisonment.
We felt that the death penalty was fully justified in this case.
I just want to go to my car.
I want to burn each hand. Let it go out. And I want to burn him until his skin falls off of his body.
Manipulate, being able to malinger, being able to do whatever he needs to do to give the impression he wants, as is true with individuals who may come in contact with the legal system and have a psychiatric problem. They are able to intentionally aggravate that condition so that they can appear to be extremely bizarre, extremely disturbed, whatever they choose to do. But they can just as quickly control that and change it as anyone else can change their behavior. Children can play game and act like monsters, so can adults. Mr. Ferry is capable of doing all of that.
Ferry has been proven by the evidence in this case to be many things. Manipulative, sadistic, perhaps mentally ill. One thing he is not. He is not a fool. Don't let him fool you.
All right, would you hand the verdict forms to the bailiff, please? Madam Clerk, please publish the verdicts.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case as to count 1. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. So say we all, dated this 27th day of August, 1985. John D. Minish, foreman of the jury. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case as to count 2. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. So say we all, dated this 27th day of August, 1985. John D. Minish, foreman of the jury. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case as to count 3. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. So say we all, dated this 27th day of August, 1985. John D. Minish, foreman of the jury. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case as to count 4. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. So say we all, dated this 27th day of August, 1985. John D. Minish, foreman of the jury. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case as to count 5. The defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. So say we all, dated this 27th.
The day a man named Billy Ferry walked into the Claremelle Winn-Dixie, throwing gasoline and igniting it. Fox 13's Tanya Arja talked to one of the survivors.
The flashbacks quickly come to Ellis Pujols, standing in the old parking lot, looking at the same building, remembering 25 years ago. He was a 16-year-old bag boy working at Winn-Dixie, working with a cashier named Leanne Carter.
We were getting ready to bag for the first customer when suddenly got splashed. She got splashed in the face, I got splashed in the back.
The smell told him right away it was gasoline.
And I turned around to take a look, and I saw Billy. And Billy was getting ready to kneel down with a light blue Bic lighter, silver tip, getting ready to pretty much light up the place.
Smoke and flames filled the front of the store.
Once the thing started going up, I went up with it.
He suffered burns on his back and legs, still has scars as a constant memory. But 5 people didn't survive, including Leanne, the cashier. Billy Ferry was arrested the next day. His family says they tried for years to get him help. He wrote an eerie message: Billy can't handle it. See? Fire. On a wall near the Winn-Dixie days before.
He had enough thought process in his mind to get it done. All right, am I upset about that? Yes. But do I forgive him? Yes.
Leanne's father was devastated right until the day he died in 2005.
I want him dead. I want him dead from the
that very night that it happened, because he took my daughter away from me.
Ellis went back to work at that Winn-Dixie 2 months after the fire, not wanting to let Billy Ferry win.
Some of the tiles up on the ceiling still had some of the residue. You know, you could tell that it was a little burnt. It was a little uncomfortable the first couple days.
He's now married with 2 kids. Billy Ferry is 55 years old, serving 5 life sentences. Ellis will never forget that day, the pain he saw and heard. Tanya Arja, Fox 13.